Hey everybody, I'm Chef Dave Sellers from the Street Food Institute. Today we're going to do a little recipe demo. It's going to be a Szechuan style pork and shrimp dumplings. I've made them a couple times. For the last couple of weeks I've been kind of on this dumpling tear, so I want to show everybody how to do it. It's a bunch of multiple steps, so I'm going to do it piece by piece. The first thing we're going to do is make the dough. In Chinese cooking they call it a hot water dough. It's really simple. It's basically all it is flour. It's 2 cups of flour, about a teaspoon of salt. And then what you do is you kind of mix it together, you make a well in the middle, and then you just basically get hot water. It's 3/4 cup of water. You get it as hot as you can get it out of the faucet. Add it in there, and then what you do is you just kind of start mixing it together like this until it'll start to get this sort of like shredded look to it. See how it's doing that? The reason for the hot water is it helps activate the gluten in the dough, because you actually want this to be kind of a glutinous dough, because since you're steaming it or boiling it, you want it to be resilient so it doesn't break apart and let the filling out. Put a little bit of flour down on the table for kneading it, and then we're just going to turn it out like that. That's about exactly what it should look like. This is a little batch. You can do more. It'll seem a little dry at first, but as you start kneading it, it'll come together. And one of the things about this dough is that you basically cannot over knead it, because you want it to be gluten. So what you want to do is you want to give it a good hard knead until it starts to become silky. You see, as the flour gets absorbed, it starts to feel a little tacky. So I'm kind of just like working more flour in it as I start to go around. So I can kind of feel it. And then, like I said, you just want to do this for about a good solid 10 minutes until the dough will start to change and it'll become really silky, and that's the way you want it to be. See, so now I've kneaded it. You can see it's got this nice sort of silky quality to it. Now what you do is we're going to wrap it up in a little piece of plastic, and we're going to let it rest. You want to let it rest for like good 45 minutes, if not an hour. So now I'm going to make the filling for the shrimp and pork dumpling. I'll go over the ingredients really quick. We have ground pork, but you want to choose a nice fresh ground pork that looks on the fattier side like that, so it's nice and flavorful. We have some shrimp. I do about equal parts of each. Soy sauce, mirin, which is a rice wine vinegar, Thai chili, garlic, ginger, and green onion. Just very quickly puree this in the food processor, the shrimp, so it becomes kind of a mousse, and then we're gonna mix it with that pork. Okay, so here is the shrimp mixture. We're just going to add that to the pork. We're going to mix it right in there. And then we're going to combine the other ingredients that we're going to put in there. We're going to do a little bit of chopped garlic. A little bit of minced ginger. The ginger you want to mince really super fine, because it's fibrous and it'll be tough. It's not tiny little pieces. Ginger. Thai chili. I'm going to do 4 in here, because I like spicy. These are very spicy. If you can't find Thai chili, you could use serrano or jalapeno too, but I like Thai chilies. Like I said, it doesn't look like a lot, but it's very spicy. And then we're going to do a little bit of green onion. And we're going to save the rest of the green onion because it's going to go in the sauce that we're going to serve it with. This too, I'm just going to chop up a little bit. I'm going to add that in there. After all the dry ingredients are mixed, and then they get seasoned with a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of rice wine vinegar, Don't put salt in it because The soy sauce is very salty. If you want, you can cook a tiny bit of it to check the seasoning, but I've done this enough where I can pretty much wing it. I'm also going to do this, a little bit, a tiny bit of Chinese 5-spice. Doesn't take much, just a tiny bit. And then the other thing that the Chinese do, Szechuan area, is they they add a little bit of water into this mousse. It gives it a less firm texture. It gives it a softer, more supple texture when it's done. See how it's getting a little looser? I'm going to put just a tiny bit more in there. The trick is you want it to be nice and tender when it's cooked. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to make a Szechuan chili oil, which is a base. It's the base for the sauce that we use for the dumplings. It's used a lot in Szechuan cooking. What I like to do is I make a little extra, and then you could just keep it like a condiment at your house. You don't have to refrigerate it, you just leave it on your counter, and it's delicious, and it lasts virtually forever. So, as it being called chili oil, it's spicy. First thing we do is we're going to dry toast some of the ingredients that are going into it. One is cinnamon. I'm going to do a nice piece of cinnamon there. So we're dry toasting it. Anytime you dry toast a spice, it releases the oils and the spice and increases the flavor of whatever you're putting it in. So we're going to do, like I said, cinnamon. Do 3 little guys of star anise, or star anise in simple. This is a cardamom. We're going to do black cardamom. We're going to do 2 little pieces of that. A little bit of bay leaf. Do 2 leaves, 2, 2.5, whatever. And then a little bit of whole coriander seed. And what'll happen is it'll start to smoke, and then you can really see that you start to smell it. It'll start to really let out its flavor. And then on the back stove, I'm heating up oil, which is going to be our chili oil. What we're doing is we're going to infuse this oil with all these different flavors. You can really smell it now. It's starting to smoke, but you don't want it to burn. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to add that right into that oil. And you want to bring the oil up to it's just about almost boiling. This is a Korean chili powder that I got at Harlem Market. So what we're going to do is we're going to add about a cup in here. You got to watch it because sometimes it'll start to boil. It can actually overboil. Oh, it just smells so good. Now that it's up to a boil, it's just going to sit there. And we're just going to let it sit for about an hour, and it'll infuse the oil with the chili. The other thing I'm going to add is a tiny bit of brown sugar. I'm going to put about a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and that kind of helps cut the heat away. And you just mix that in, and then you let this sit. But this bit virtually lasts forever, and it's like a killer condiment. You can like drizzle it on whatever, a steak, fish. You know, it has all those wonderful Chinese flavors. Okay, so now I'm going to complete the sauce. So we have this chili oil that's made. As you can see, if you look at it, see how I just turned it to deep dark red. Then what happens is all the solids will float down to the bottom. But when you make the sauce, you actually want to take some of the solids out. Like you don't want to just use the oil, you want some of the chili powder. So what I do is I drag it up to the bottom a little bit and just get some of that yummy stuff so it's just not straight oil. So you have more chili than oil. Like that, right? And this thing is just like, yeah, like that. That's what you want right there. So just super flavorful, right? So we got that. So that's the kind of the base for the sauce. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little more of the julienne fine diced, super fine diced ginger. I don't really have a recipe written for this down in right ratios. I just kind of play with it to, you know, how I like the flavor of it. But you can adjust it to your personal taste. And then we're going to do a little more of the green onion. This time I'm going to leave them round, but I do want to cut them super, super thin. Add that in there. And then also we're going to do a little bit of cilantro. Not too much, about this much. And then we're going to add some soy sauce. A little bit more of the rice wine vinegar. That'll kind of loosen the sauce up a little bit. And then also sesame oil. A little bit of sesame oil to finish it off. Don't need a lot. Sesame oil is super strong. And that's it. So that's the sauce. Super flavorful, super spicy. And basically what you do is, in this form, you just kind of, once the dumplings are done, I'm going to make them now, I'll show you. You just kind of drizzle this on it, or you can use it as a straight dipping sauce too. Now that's the fun part. We're going to make the dumplings, right? So I have my dough here. It's well rested. This is my filling, which is ready. I had refrigerated it until we were ready to go. So we got the filling, dough, a little bit of flour for the work surface and to help it kind of not stick to anything, and egg. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap this guy. We're going to throw down a little flour so he doesn't stick. Just kind of cut it into equal pieces, maybe about that big, right? And then what you're going to do is we're going to roll it down to about 3/4 of an inch thick. So it looks about like that. And then what we're going to do is kind of cut it into little pieces, which are going to be our individual dumplings. We cut them about that big. So each one of these is going to be their little dumplings. Like that. So they're a nice little round guy, right? We're going to mush it with my finger, see how it's like a little bit round? And then what you do is, this is how they do it. You kind of keep on going around in a circle, and then you just kind of keep it on. You want it pretty thin, because just like pasta, fresh pasta, when you cook it, it's going to expand, same way bread does. And then, so it'll actually be thicker than what you think it's going to be. Try to keep it round. I'm not really that great at keeping it round, as you can see. So that's what you want. About like that, about 1/16 of an inch thick maybe. Small amount of our filling. You gotta keep in mind that you're cooking this from raw, so if you make the filling too thick in the middle, if there's too much of it, it's not gonna cook it through before the dumpling falls apart. So it's kind of a little bit of a happy medium. So I put about that much on there. I'm gonna take the egg. Usually I take the egg just around one side. Just like that. And then real simply, we just kind of bring it up and cinch the edges like this. I like to keep it simple, just like that. And there's your dumpling. This part's easy. All I got is boiling water. I'm just going to boil the dumplings until they're done. You can also cook them in a bamboo steamer if you want, with like a little piece of parchment paper under them with some holes poked in it so the steam comes through. So you just pop these guys in. You want to make sure they don't stick to each other or the bottom. And you cook them, I'd say they take about 5 minutes. So I just give them a little gentle stir just to make sure they're not sticking to the bottom. And then when they're done, we'll pull them out and eat them. You can plate them however you want. Like I said, you can put them in a bowl. If you're at a party, you could do it like this. If you're having a party at your house, I prefer a straight line. And then basically, I like to drizzle the sauce on there a little bit because I just think it looks really nice. Get some of the chunks, get all that on there. And what I would do is also have the bowl on the side. So a little bit, I always like green. Got a little bit of Thai chili, a little bit of green onion, and just a few pieces of cilantro. There you go. Shrimp and pork dumplings, Szechuan style with a Szechuan chili oil based sauce. I'm gonna try this guy.